Sitting in the cul-de-sac, contemplating murder. Swerving with my circus, looking for a purpose. Pseudo clean record, hope got another surface.
Good afternoon and welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Culpers Canteen Cup. Big thanks to Carlton Zeus for that music intro. You can hit him up at carltonzeus.com and on Apple Music. Hey, we know everybody has a lot going on. We really appreciate your time that you're taking to listen to us and engage with us on our social media platforms. Let everybody know this is an extremely special episode that we have lined up for you. We've got Joe Dillon, the 1997 Big 12 Player of the Year, member of the Texas Tech Baseball Hall of Fame, World Series champion Washington Nationals, and now the hitting coach for the Philadelphia Phillies. Before we kick this off, though, we want to take a minute and promote a small business called American Aero Designs. American Aero Designs is an apparel company based out of East Texas. They specialize in men and women, custom apparel, and accessories. Check them out on Facebook, and you can also find them online at www.americanaerodesigns.com. Head on over, check them out, support a small business, and some great people. All right, everybody. So as we mentioned before, we have an incredibly special guest on with us today, Joe Dillon, the hitting coach of the Philadelphia Phillies. Hey, we're incredibly humbled that Joe took a little time out of his day to talk to us and tell us a little bit about his story, where he came from and how he got to where he's at. Joe, again, we really appreciate you taking the time. We know you're taking some time off and spending time reconnecting with the family and everything. We kind of want to start with, kind of where and how you grew up. What what got you, into baseball as a kid, and and kind of where that took you.
For sure. Well, first of all, I don't know how special I am for you to have you guys to have me on, but I appreciate you guys asked me to be on, and also appreciate you guys for all your service to the country, and it's, I think, something that's not said enough to the people that serve our country and keep it safe and allow us to do the things we're able to do. So I wanted to mention that to you guys as well. So going into question one there, kind of the history. I grew up in Northern California, Santa Rosa, about 45 minutes north of San Francisco. Back then, as California is more of a, soccer state, and obviously football, basketball, baseball, the normal stuff. But my dad was a football player, and so he was a quarterback. He was pretty good based on what he tells me and some of the stuff that my mom says. But he was in junior college. He was actually going to San Diego State on a scholarship after junior college, and like his last game, he was rolling out left, threw right. Guy hit him in the knee, ACL, MCL. Back then that's a career ender. And so, with his football career went mine. My mom didn't let me. She had no interest in me playing football after she's seen what my dad gone through. So, for me growing up, it was a lot of soccer, baseball, and a little bit of basketball. Ironically, I was a late bloomer physically. I was graduated at 17. Kind of back then, the parents couldn't afford, childcare. They try to get you out of childcare as quick as possible and get you into school. So, they started me in school early, kind of hurts your athletic career a little bit. But so ironically, I had a soccer scholarship out of high school, not baseball. And the only reason why I played soccer was because Mom loved it and she wanted me to continue to play. I'd played so long, and they invested a bunch of money when I was younger, and so my last, once I got to high school, was just soccer and baseball only. And then, going through that. So obviously baseball was my passion. So I shut down the soccer. I went to my local junior college, Santa Rosa Junior College, played junior college baseball there for 2 years. Ended up, after my sophomore year, had a good sophomore year. Had an opportunity to go to Long Beach State or Texas Tech. Obviously I chose Texas Tech, ended up there. That's where the connection with Luke comes into play there. Also being from Amarillo, my wife's from Amarillo. So there's our connection there. But so going through Texas Tech, had a blast, really. College town, baseball, in junior college, we had no fans. It's California junior college back then, not much exposure. So going to Tech's big college town, whatever sport's in town, that's it. So we had a blast. I ended up having a good couple years, ended up getting drafted by the Royals in the 7th round. I think this is kind of lead in some other questions you guys have, but I ended up playing 97 draft, and then I played till 2001 or through 2002, and had back problems, had some back issues. So I ended up retiring from baseball after 2002. I went back to Tech, got my degree, was coaching. And so that's kind of the first taste of coaching that I got into, and had back surgery, fixed it on the urge of some ex-teammates and coaches to go back and play. I did. Didn't go over too well with my wife Tillery when I told her I was wanting to go back and play. we were scraping by, and I'm sure you guys are aware you don't make much money in the minor leagues, and we had already tried that for 5 years. She was working part-time in Dillard's, following me around, making more money than I was playing every day. So, people don't realize, but it took me 7 years before I made over $20,000 playing baseball.
Wow.
So it's not all the glitz and glam that people think. Obviously the guys make a ton of money in the major leagues and some of the big contracts, and I'm in it, so I think it's deserved as a piece of the pie, and what they go through in the minor leagues. But anyway, that's a different conversation. So anyway, I went back and played, and came back with the Florida Marlins, as a basically as a late sign to protect some young hitters. I was 27, I believe, at the time, and ended up being their minor league player of the year. Next year, made the big leagues in 2005. 2006, we went to Japan, played a year in Japan. Came back 2007 with the Brewers. Second half 2007, made the big leagues with the Brewers. All of 2008, pretty much. And then got traded to Tampa 2009. Played first couple months with Tampa Bay, and then finished 2009 in AAA in Durham, and then 2010 was my last year at 35. I played the whole year in AAA, and ended up shutting it down after that year.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you and your wife because that's one of the things that resonates with professional sports players. And that's one of the things resonates in things that, the military side of the audience is, interested in, that work-life balance, right? So, you're playing in the minor leagues, minor league players don't get paid a lot. You're moving around a lot. You're dealing with, some nagging injuries. Like how do you get through that? What are some of the things that you and your wife did, that kind of, because a lot of people don't make it through that, together. So what were some of the things that you guys focused on to make sure to build those bonds and that make sure that family unit stayed intact?
Yeah, I think number one, obviously it takes a special woman to get into this lifestyle. She's basically, putting on hold any goals or aspirations that she has. She worked her butt off, put herself through college. And then, when she graduated, she's following me around the country, trying to pursue my dream. She's basically the breadwinner, working part-time at places. And, it takes a special person, number one. Number two, she knew what she was getting into. I mean, she was around baseball a little bit, and then we were friends before we ever started dating. So she kind of knew she knew that's something I wanted to do, and we had some friends as well, some teammates of mine that went on to play pro ball. So we kind of knew a little bit of what the life is. You don't know until you dive in, but she knew what she was signing up for, and she was all in. And she's a special woman, and wonderful mother, and she's been supportive the whole time. And that's just what it takes. It takes a lot of sacrifice on her end, and putting me, my dreams and the family, obviously number one, and that's what it takes to make it work.
Hey Joe, it sounds like Josh said, it sounds like there's a lot of parallels between the two. Moving around, on the road a lot, and believe a lot of our listeners are going to appreciate that. I kind of have something also, a little parallel between professional sports and the community we've worked with in the military quite a bit. And forgive me for the long-winded question, but I'll kind of set it up for you. A lot of times we work with some high-octane individuals who the lifestyle is very demanding on them. They have to, full peak performance at all times. in that way, I'll say it's like kind of like a professional athlete where it's like, okay, you have to perform. And at the moment you start falling off and you can't perform anymore, it's time to let that go. And for a lot of guys in the military, and I imagine it's the exact same way as sports, that is a very hard transition to make. It's like, well, my mind still wants to do it. I love it. You know, it's what I feel like I was born to do, but my body physically can't perform. So the question I have of you is, you know, could you describe like how athletes deal with that? Maybe yourself, maybe things you've seen. Could you kind of give us, you know, some strategies to the audience on how to deal with that type of transition?
For sure. I mean, I think there's a lot of parallels for sure. I mean, it's, you know, obviously the stakes are a lot higher in the military. You know, the difference between, you know, success and failure is life and death, right? Where obviously we don't have that. You know, it's more livelihood and the ability to take care of your family. And there's so many people, you know, for certain players, for sure, there's so many people relying on them to perform, you know, especially some of the Latin players that, you know, they're coming from poverty and like their whole family and their families are all relying on them to go perform and provide financially, you know, for their whole family. And if they do, it's going to set their families up and their families up for generations. So, you know, there's a lot of layers that go on top of that. But strictly from a performance perspective, I think it's, you know, and I'm sure you guys can relate, you know, from a coaching perspective, it's really getting the guys to just really stay process oriented and focus on the process. You know, you get caught up with the motions and the motion of the results. That's when things can kind of get away from you. You know, I mean, it's really, especially in baseball. I mean, that's why I think baseball is the best game in the world, because it's, you know, especially from a hitting perspective, you know, it's all based off of failure and how you can handle failure, how you rebound from failure, right? I mean, you fail 7 out of 10 times, you've got a chance to play in the Hall of Fame if you play long enough, right? I mean, what other sport or what other aspect of life can you do that, right? It doesn't happen that way. You know, in the military, you fail 7 out of 10 times, there's going to be a lot of, you know, I don't want to go there, whatever, what could happen, but it wouldn't be good for anybody, right? So, you know, that's the fine line, but it's, you know, getting the guys to focus on the process and stick with the routines and be able to, you know, remanufacture confidence when they do fail. You know, those are all the things that are really tough. And, you know, that's what it takes special people, special individuals. I think, you know, the high end of the military, it's, you know, from a, you know, cognitive perspective, the ability to make really quick, fast, accurate decisions in what's going on. I mean, that's a lot of the same things in baseball as a hitter. You know, these guys are elite, not only elite physical athletes, but they're elite cognitive athletes, you know, where these guys can process information extremely, extremely fast. And, you know, I know you guys, the military deals with that, you know, high-end branches of the military.
Yeah, no, and that's that's a fantastic point, you know, especially from players, you know, coming from incredibly poor countries, you know, where that truly is. And even for them, you know, and for their families, that could mean the difference between, you know, whether they're going to, you know, live in poverty or, you know, possibly worse, and, you know, whether they're going to make it. You know, so you talk about that, you know, keeping guys focused on the process. So at what point, you know, did you kind of see yourself, you know, and now as a coach, how, you know, what are some of the things that you do to stay, you know, to keep your players focused on that process?
I mean, I think it's a lot of it, you know, there's kind of the way I approach it. I kind of look at my guys and I basically take each guy and compartmentalize into 3 buckets. So I got like a physical bucket. So when we're working on the physical, so it's basically training the neck down, right? We're working on their mechanics of their swing, kind of the physical piece of that. And then, you know, then we got the cognitive bucket. So their decision making, right? We're trying to train them to make better decisions. It's all about, you know, hitting is all about decisions, right? We make good decisions, we swing good pitches to hit. You know, we're going to make harder contact. You're going to, you know, obviously be more productive for your team and yourself. And then the third piece is the human element, right? That's kind of the makeup of the guy, how you need to handle that individual. You know, guys either need to be kicked in the butt, patted on the butt, or a combination of both. So, that's where you kind of build that personal relationship with the guys and you build that trust, and then you kind of understand as a coach how to deal with that individual player. And, it's so individualized. The more I learn, the more I realize what I don't know, and the more I realize how individualized everybody is, right? So I've been blessed. I've been around some really good coaches and some really good players. And the more and more I learn, the more I realize how much everybody's different. And then that's kind of where I think the art of coaching comes in, and you got to get that player to understand what he needs to do to be successful for him. Because it's, our culture is a copycat culture, right? Everybody wants to be Mike Trout or Bryce Harper or whoever, right? But unless you move like them and unless you can process information like them, you're probably going to set yourself up for failure. So really, really embracing the individuality and who you are, your strengths and weaknesses, and build on those things. I think that's the way we attack it with our guys.
Hey, Joe, this is Roger. I want to kind of talk to you a little bit about the World Series run. So, one, huge fan because growing up, I was a Montreal Expos fan. And, I go back to like the Gary Carter years, and we didn't do a whole lot of winning, in Montreal. So once they became the Nationals, it was kind of nice to actually bring a title. But can you talk a little bit about, on the topic of pressure, as far as, how that pressure increased during a World Series run? Things that specific players felt, maybe things that they do, things that you help them to cope with those pressures.
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the things we try to do as a coaching staff is not change anything. So we try to prepare the same way. It's just another game, right? So the regular season is 162. We just got all right, now we're going to play 163, 164, 165, keep going, right? Try to win series, just treat it like it is. We do in the regular season, and it all comes down to the players. The players that can handle that and continue to keep the game slow down and execute on the field. Those are the teams that are going to win. And it was really neat to see last year. So this year is my 20th year in professional baseball, and last year was the closest knit group that I've ever seen as a player or a coach. I mean, it was special. All the guys got along. There was no cliques. All the different. You got so many different walks of life on a team from different countries, from different parts of the country. Old, young, new, superstars. Rookies, and everybody genuinely loved each other. And I think the whole baseball world was kind of scared of us because they knew if we got healthy and got on a roll, we were capable of doing exactly what we did. And, from a coaching staff perspective, we try to keep it as normal as possible. We kept the daily routines the same and so on and so forth. The only difference is from our perspective is really the media presence, right? So from a regular season game, the only difference is the media. There's tons of media everywhere, and it gets more and more each round you go through. And then obviously the fans, every game's sold out and it's crazy and electric and all those things. And you'll run into a few games like that during the season with a big rival on a weekend or whatever. So you get a taste of that some places, but the playoffs is a whole different animal. I mean, it's just a whole nother electricity level, and that's why these guys, they're the best in the world at what they do, and they're able to control that environment and continue to perform and be consistent with what they do.
Hey, Joe, yeah, great points on that. As far as like the pressure, keeping everything the same, there are definitely some parallels, on the military side of that. You prepare for, the mission. You run through your pre-combat inspections, pre-combat checks, the same as you would for, going out on a routine resupply run to you would, going out on a direct action mission. So definitely a lot of parallels to draw. So I gotta ask, like, so you guys got off to a slow start, this season. At what point in the season did you guys kind of realize, hey, we have an opportunity to win this?
I think, even the spring training, you look around and you looked at our pitching staff and you looked at our lineup. We felt we had a really good shot to compete, coming out of spring training, and then the season happens, 162, and you're dealing with humans and guys get hurt, and we had freak injuries, we had normal stuff, and the problem with us is it all bunched up early in the season. And I remember we had a series in Milwaukee. We literally had like 2 regulars in our starting lineup. We had like half the AAA team was up playing, and it was a bad spot. I mean, a lot of people, unless you're a DC fan, you don't hear it or didn't see it. But I mean, there's rumblings about the coaching staff getting fired, and a lot of things happened. I think we were 19-31 at the end of May, and we had like a 0.1 chance to win the pennant or whatever, right? And so that's why math, right? When you're dealing with humans, you never know what's going to happen. But just the way baseball goes, guys started. We started getting healthy, and guys started performing up their abilities, and we got hot, and that's what baseball is all about: getting hot at the right times. And that was something that happened. And for me, honestly, like I really don't get nervous as a coach anymore. Or as a coach, I don't get nervous really watching the games. And then I was a little bit nervous in the wild card game. And then I was a little bit nervous in Game 5 against the Dodgers. And after we won that game against the Dodgers, I had like an easy feeling, like I just had that gut feeling like we're gonna win this thing. And we go into sweep St. Louis, then we win the first 2 against Houston. I'm like, we're gonna sweep right through this whole thing. And then obviously it didn't go that way. But I still, even after we lost the next 3 in DC, I still felt like we were gonna do it. I just had an easy feeling about it. For whatever reason, I just kind of had some calmness over me, and I'm like, these guys are going to do it.
Yeah, I tell you, man. Again, I'm a huge Braves fan. I've been watching the Braves since I was a little kid. And but one thing I love baseball, and unfortunately I don't get to watch the Braves a lot in the postseason after the 90s. But great teams find a way to win. And you guys, you were trailing in the wild card game. You came back and won that. You were trailing, in the final game of the division series, against the Dodgers. You came back and won that. And then, right, Game 7 World Series, like, it's every kid's dream, to come out there. And how did you feel after Howie's 2-run homer that put you guys ahead? What was the temperature and the energy like in the dugout then?
It was electric for sure. It's kind of weird because you're at the. Obviously we're the visiting team there, and so you kind of there wasn't a ton of national fans, but the ones that were there were, obviously they went nuts, and the rest of the stadium went silent, right? And the dugout's going complete bananas. And Howie Kendrick he's one of my favorite players I've ever been around. He's into his mid to later 30s, and people don't realize this because he doesn't qualify. But he had an injury in 18, and then obviously he was healthy last year. But he's led the league in hitting if you combine the last 2 years, he's led the league in hitting. He's like, I want his like 340 something, like 348 or something like that. I don't know exact numbers on it right now off the top of my head, but he's led the league in hitting, and this guy works. He's an animal. He's the first one in the field every day. He's very, very routine oriented. He's very diligent in his work, and he works his tail off, and he's a good teammate. He's a good person. He's a good dad, good husband. And so when you get guys like that get in those moments, he's been waiting his whole career to play in the World Series and the playoffs. And I think he played in the playoffs a couple times, but this is his first time really going deep in the playoffs and then getting the opportunity to deliver. And obviously the grand slam against the Dodgers, and then the 2-run home run against Houston is just like, those guys, you feel there's a lot of satisfaction for those types of guys that get that opportunity finally when they've grinded their whole career, and then they get that opportunity and they seize the moment and deliver and perform. And it's just fun to watch because he's pretty. You saw him both big home runs. You see some fist pump and emotion come out, and he's really not. He's pretty stoic and pro as you get throughout the course of the season. So it's pretty neat to see those guys come out of their shell a little bit and let some emotion show in those big moments when they perform.
I get the World Series is important and all that, Joe, but as a Texas Tech fan, and my dad especially, the lifelong Tech. He went to Tech also. We don't care about the World Series. We care about, Texas Tech. And so it's kind of a two-pronged question. So I'm going to backpedal back to your collegiate career there. So first, two questions. Number one, you said Long Beach State or Texas Tech. Okay, so was it the Texas Tech recruiters that got you to come on, or was it the dust storms, the wind, and the strip? Okay, that's question one. And question two, I wanted to put up there, in bold letters, Texas Tech Baseball Hall of Fame, number one. But could you ever see yourself, maybe ending up back at Tech down the road or something?
That's really not on my radar right now. I never rule anything out, but they got a good program going right now. They're, I think Coach Tadlock's locked in for several years. They've been on a really good run. I don't know. I'd never say no, but that's really not on the radar anytime soon for sure. But going back to question one would be definitely the wind and the mud rainstorms when it's blowing dust and then it start raining and rain mud on you. That's really what sold me. So honestly, I didn't get recruited until really late into my sophomore year, and Long Beach State came on literally the last 2 weeks of the season. You don't have the exposure and everything like you do nowadays. I mean, pretty much anybody's going to be seen no matter what school you go to if you're really good. Back then, it wasn't the case so much, and so Long Beach State came in late in the picture, like the second last week of the season. They knew nobody was on me, and so they made me an offer, and then Tech actually came in. They denied. They said they came to watch me, which they didn't. They came to watch my buddy pitch. He's like 6 left-handed pitcher. Pretty much every school in the country was on him, and they saw me play, and then they started recruiting me. So they brought me out to Tech the next weekend, and I think they won. It was 95. They won the Southwest Conference, and so I actually was there on my recruiting trip when they did that. So
was your wife one of the recruiters back then?
She was. I think she was, but I think she did more of the football team.
Oh, okay. Well, she made the right choice.
Yeah, I don't think she was doing the baseball team at that.
Bam Morris or Joe Dillon. I mean, come on. She made the right call.
Right. So going back there, I'm trying to think of, I will have to say the scenery around campus definitely didn't hurt anything.
Yeah, that's no joke. My wife went to Tech.
I don't know what it is about West Texas, but there's some, there are a lot of beautiful women there in West Texas. I don't know. Yep. I don't know. They grow them a little differently. Good basketball players and beautiful women. I don't know what it is with the women there, but it's that definitely didn't hurt the deal. But ultimately for me, it was, I wanted to go to a college town, and obviously Lubbock is that, and Long Beach State's a commuter school. Even though they're obviously a great baseball program, I was flattered they want me to come there, but Tech was definitely a better fit for me personally.
Great. So now I've got to hear Luke talk about the next week about how great Texas Tech is. Thanks for that plug.
Yeah.
I got a two-part question. And one, I remember as a kid when somebody did an interview with Pete Sampras, and this is one of the most. This question really stuck out for me. So the first one is, how freaking cool is it to have been a Major League Baseball player and to be in Major League Baseball now? In my mind, and I'm a huge sports fan, it's just very hard to fathom to be at that level. I mean, just personally, personal gratification, personal success. And then finally, what's after baseball? Do you know if you continue coaching? Do you go off and are there, some other things that you've got that you want to do in life, or, what's next?
So yeah, obviously, being a Major League Baseball is that's kind of what I grew up dreaming to do, and to be able to accomplish those dreams is awesome. I think in the road that I took to get there was, a lot different than most people. I think, kind of my story of going back to school and coaching and coming back, people would tease me a little bit, and I'd kind of say the same thing. But remember the Disney movie, The Rookie, with the pitcher that came back from coaching? Yep. Like that happened right around like a year or two before I did. I'm like, man, if that guy didn't come back and pitch, that could have been me in the movie, right? So that was kind of a wild ride as well. But no, it's great. I mean, I think it's, the quality of people in professional baseball are, cream of the crop. And I didn't, the first time I realized that after 2010 was my last year playing. And so when I got done, I'm like, all right, I got to do what I love to do, for 35 years. I want to be home. I want to be a husband. I want to be dad, and I got a pharmaceutical sales job. I was trying to get into like medical device sales. And, I get out in this pharmaceutical sales world, never had a real job in my life. Right. I had a couple like part-time jobs and off seasons, used to work at the Glaze Honey Ham Shop in Lubbock. I don't know if you ever went there, Luke.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know where it is.
Yeah, that was my off-season job. Matt Miller's uncle, remember Matt Miller, the left-handed pitcher? His uncle owned the ham store there, and he was awesome. They took care of me, and they helped us out in the off-season, and I worked up for them. But other than that, whether baseball was the only job I had, and so get in the real world, and working in the competitive sales, corporate America, and like literally. I'll go through this training, and I'll give it to them. The training's pretty tough. I mean, they put you through the ringer a little bit, but I go. I go out and I got my territory. And my territory's was like 260th out of 300 or whatever in the country, in my territory, and literally I didn't know what I was doing. I just put this bootstraps on and showed up to work every day. I ran my routes and did what they told me to do. I put in a full day's work, and like literally in 6 months, I still didn't know what I was doing, and I went from like 260 to like 150. And I still don't know what I'm doing. I'm just showing up. I'm going everywhere, right? and then about 9 months, I start figuring it out. Like, all right, I'm starting to get more efficient. I'm starting to figure out what I need to do, who I need to talk to. I'm building relationships. And then I get up to like 75th or whatever, like 50 after 9 months. And a year into it, I was number 1 in the country.
Nice. Wow.
In my territory, and literally it just shows you what hard work will do.
Yeah.
And that's just, and I didn't know I was doing anything different, but compared to the average person out there, I think military is the same way. I mean, I think, you have that instinct to work hard, show up every day, put a full day's work in. And, I think that's, I was, I tell like my brother-in-law this when he was younger, is like, dude, you got to be a 1%er. You got to be, it's not hard. You just got to be willing to do what the other 99% isn't, and the other 99% is not willing to work hard. Yeah. And so if you're willing to put in the extra work and show up and outwork, you can do a lot in the world, let alone in corporate America when you're dealing with the average population. So that's kind of, once I got around that, and then I was able to get back in baseball. I really took, before that I took for granted how special the people in baseball are and how quality the people they are. And, you really like being around people like you and with the same work ethic, same mindset, and, iron sharpens iron. And, that's kind of the really enjoyment I get in baseball, learning from these guys all the time, learning from my peers, and obviously get an opportunity to work with the best baseball players in the world and what they do, and get an opportunity to even have a little bit of impact and help them a little bit is very fulfilling. So that's part 1. Part 2, after baseball, I haven't gone that far yet. We're starting to get to the point, we're getting older, so I'm 44. Tillery just turned 46. So I got a cougar, Luke. We got the Texas Tech cougar going.
Yeah.
We're getting to that age where we got our oldest boy 17, so college is on the horizon, and then our youngest boy is 11. So a little bit of planning for college, and then obviously a little bit of trying to get to a point where we can retire at some point. So we're that type of stuff is coming to the picture, and I'd like to stay in baseball as long as possible. I'd like to work at least for another 10 to 12 years in professional baseball in some capacity. I'd love to keep doing what I'm doing at the moment, and then from there, I don't know what's going to happen. We'll hopefully we'll be able to go, and Tillery's always wanted to retire on a beach somewhere, so hopefully we'll be in a situation where we can get her get her toes in the sand, and she deserves it to put up with me for this long.
All right, Joe, I got so we got two final questions for you, and you kind of you spoke to it a little bit there in the first part of your answer. What do you tell those young kids coming up right now who are out playing baseball and they've got the dream, of being there at Game 7 World Series? What advice do you give those kids?
I mean, I think I definitely touched it. I mean, you just got to work. You got to be willing to work, put in the work, and you got to exhaust every resource and opportunity that you have to make yourself the best version of you. That's the number one. I think you got to embrace your individuality and your strengths and weaknesses as a human, and enhance your strengths, minimize your weaknesses, and attack those every day and work. You got to be willing to work harder than everybody else. I think it's simple. It's really simple. Not easy to do. It's not easy to get up and work and do those things to separate yourself from the competition. But that's kind of one of the things that I always had, kind of an innate thing for me is I always picture myself competing against, all right, each level you go up from, once you get into college, right? And so trying to be one of the best college players in the country, which I was able to accomplish. And all of a sudden I get into pro ball and I'm looking around, and now you got, I was a Big 12 Player of the Year my senior year, and I'm looking around. All right, now we got the SEC Player of the Year, and we got this guy. He's the Player of the Year, his conference, and then we got all these other All-American guys here, and plus the best high school players in the country. And how do I separate myself from those guys? And again, it's hard work. It's one of the things I do well, and I got to continue to do those things. And then my weaknesses, I got to attack them. So I got to put in extra work to be efficient across the board and well balanced. And I think that constant pursuit of that is what drives you and what separates you and allows you to do things that a lot of people can't.
Yeah, amen to that. And so, last question: are we going to see baseball on TV this year? Or are we going to get to go to games this year? What are you hearing, and kind of what's the temperature in the clubhouse? Are you guys chomping at the bit to get back on the field, or what's going on with that?
For sure. I mean, I don't have an answer for you. I mean, honestly, it's whatever you're seeing in the media and hearing in the media is very similar to what we're hearing and seeing. I'm obviously hoping that we play baseball. I'm hopeful that we're going to get there at some point in time. Obviously, there's going to have to be some different adjustments that we're going to have to make it possible. I can envision games with no fans in the stands starting out, maybe playing in certain parts of the country that haven't been hit as bad, trying to get creative, stuff like that. I think that's our best opportunity to play the soonest. Hopeful at some point in time everybody can get back to their home cities and play and play in front of the fans. I'm not sure if that's going to be possible this year or not, but I'm hoping we'll get something going here at some point in time. Obviously we all want it, but obviously there's a bigger issue going on right now with the health of our country, and we got to get that under wraps first as well. But, I think as far as the guys are concerned, the hard part with our players is, as an athlete, it's all about a start date, right? So whatever date that start date is, you work back from that, right? So all your programming's done, all your workouts are done. You're preparing your body for a certain date to be ready to go. But we don't have a date right now. So that's the tough part. We're kind of in limbo right now. We're like telling our guys, all right, go back to like December, January-ish, where you're going, from a body perspective, preparation perspective. And then, hopefully we'll get the green light at some point in time, and they can turn it back on and kind of push the gas down and hit the ground running and get, a little shortened spring training. I'm guessing we're going to get some type of a 3-4 week spring training and hit the ground running from there.
Yeah, in the military we call that hurry up and wait, Joe. So there you go.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, Joe. We incredibly appreciate your time, especially taking the time while you're trying to reconnect with the family and manage that work-life balance. Again, thank you so much for coming in and chatting with us. we definitely appreciate it, and we look forward to talking to you again soon. And we look forward to seeing everybody out on the diamond as soon as they can, so we can get baseball season underway.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me on, fellas, and enjoyed the time, and I look forward to getting on the diamond here, when it's safe and we can get that done.
All right, everybody, that closes out another episode of Culpers Canteen Cup. Again, we appreciate you taking the time to listen to us. Don't forget to head on over, check out American Arrow Apparel for all your custom apparel needs. Keep your canteen cups full, and we'll see you next time.